Hi everyone, it's Medin here, and today I'd like to share a little more about the 8 limbs of yoga. So, what are the 8 limbs of yoga? The 8 limbs of yoga are specified in the Yoga Sutras written by Patanjali more than 2000 years ago. And the Yoga Sutras are a collection of 195 short and very precise and powerful teachings of yoga. Patanjali wrote in the Sadhana Pada, which is chapter 2 of the Yoga Sutras, about these 8 limbs of yoga. This is really a system that provides very precise teachings and guidance for us to achieve self-realization and liberation. And each of these components that make up the 8 limbs, or sometimes known as the Eightfold Path, they are equally important to guide us on this journey. So sometimes they're described just like a tree. So there are different parts of the tree, the roots, the trunk, the branches, the leaves. So these individual parts of the tree, they all make up the entire tree, right? Okay, so each one of them cannot survive without the individual parts. So just like this system of yoga, each individual component is just as important to guide us on this journey to liberation. Okay, so let's go through them. Okay. The 8 limbs of yoga, they are the yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Okay, let's go through them individually. So let's go back to the first one, the yamas. The yamas are directly translated to as restraints, and it is really how we relate to our surroundings and how we relate to the world around us. I think this is really the foundation of our yoga practice. Sometimes it is described as the root of a tree. Okay, so that is really the root of our yoga practice. And there are 5 yamas. Let's go through them briefly. They are ahimsa, which is non-violence; satya, truthfulness; asteya, non-stealing; brahmacharya, the rightful use of our energy; and the last one, aparigraha, which is non-possessiveness. Okay, now let's go to the second limb, which is niyamas. It's directly translated to as observances, which is really how we relate to ourselves. And sometimes this can be described just like a trunk of a tree. Okay, so it is really the core of our being, okay, the guiding principles to our being. And there are also 5 niyamas, and they are saucha, which is cleanliness or purity; santosha, contentment; tapas, discipline; swadhyaya, self-study; and iswara pradhana, surrender. Okay, now let's go to the third limb of yoga, which is asana. This is directly translated to as postures, which is what most of us are familiar with in the modern yoga world. In our asana practice, the physical practice but in the traditional yoga text, this is really translated to as how we relate to our body, and our body is in relation to the earth, and how we are able to be grounded in our physical body. Now let's go on to the fourth limb of yoga, which is pranayama. This is directly translated to as the control of our breath. And so you can see that the practices are getting a little more and more subtle. And so this really works on our energetic body using the breath, which really helps us to get in touch with our prana. And this is similar to the leaves of a tree. These are the leaves help to get energy from the sun and then transform that energy to really support the growth of a tree. Okay, so pranayama is just like the leaves of a tree. And if we go back a little, the asana is like the branches. Okay, so you can see that the practice is getting a little more and more subtle, a little more and more inwards. Okay, and then we move on to the fifth limb, which is pratihara. This is directly translated to as withdrawal of our senses. And in the yoga practice, this really means that we focus on our breath. Okay, we direct the attention, our drishti, our gazing point inwards. And I think beyond the physical practice, it also means our decision to withdraw our senses from things that disrupts our inner peace. For example, we make the decision not to watch violent movies or listen to violent music. Is really withdrawing our senses from that. Or maybe another example, we choose not to eat things that are made in a harmful way, or we choose not to support organizations that do harm to our surroundings. So this is an example of pratihara in our daily life. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is dharana. So the last three limbs are more internal practice. Okay, so I would say the pranayama and pratihara, which is the fourth and the fifth limb, they are the bridge to bring us from the external practices to the internal practices. Okay, so dharana is directly translated to as concentration, a concentration on an object or concentration on our breath. Okay, so there is an object and us, the observer. And when you're able to really sustain this concentration, it naturally leads us to the next limb, which is dhyana. This is directly translated to as meditation. And so that sustained concentration leads us to meditation, where the the observer, which is ourselves, the observer and the object of concentration becomes more and more integrated. Okay, that's when we come into a state of meditation. And when you're able to sustain that state of meditation for a long time, it again naturally brings us to the very last limb, which is samadhi. This is directly translated to as bliss or sometimes absorption, when the object and the observer becomes united. So there is no more separation. You are fully absorbed in that present moment. Okay, so I think it's really important to understand that samadhi is not that big moment in our yoga practice. It's not that big moment that only happens when we go into meditation. It can happen when we are speaking. Okay, sometimes when you are fully absorbed in a conversation, or when you are fully absorbed in doing something, fully present, that is a state of samadhi, right? Okay, a state of bliss. Okay, so that's all I have for the 8 limbs of yoga. So I hope this little explanation has given you a little more clarity about your yoga practice. And I think at the end of the day, what we want to achieve is to really close the gap between practice time and non-practice time. So we are always practicing yoga. It's a lot beyond just doing the physical practice on your yoga mat. It's really how we choose to live our lives according to these principles. Thank you.